Hey everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. In today's video we have a pretty special deck. This deck just took second place at the Brazilian National Championships. Of course, this is right before Flash Fire comes out, so there's no cards from the brand new set, but this was a very cool deck. Took second place at the Brazilian National Championships, like I said, and it's definitely worth looking at. So for a while I've been trying to find a way to use Flareon. Flareon is an awesome Pokemon, very unique Pokemon, has this Vengeance attack, does 20 plus 10 for each Pokemon in your discard pile. There's no limit, you can just do as much damage as there is for Pokemon in your discard pile, so it's definitely a cool Pokemon, and also evolutions have always kind of been pretty cool. And it's tough to find a deck that revolves around this since it only has 100 HP, and of course Vengeance is more of a late game attack. It's not something you can really be aggressive with. So this deck found a way to use it. There's Flareon, obviously, we have a heavy line of that. 4 EV, 3 Flareon, and then Leafeon's a really cool attacker as well. Energy Crush does 20 times the amount of energy your opponent has in play. So this is very good against anything weak to grass, like Keldeo EX, but this is also just good against decks that get a bunch of energy in play. So Energy Crush, for 1 energy, is a very good attack. You're not really going to use Leaf Blade ever, but Energy Crush is cool. Just cheap attacks that do a lot of damage. And then a natural partner for Flareon is also Raichu. Since Yveltal EX is a pretty big pain, Raichu is a very good answer. Yveltal EX is weak to lightning, so we have Circle Circuit, does 20 times the number of your benched Pokemon. So basically, if you have a full bench, you can do 100 damage for a single double colorless energy for 200 damage, so that's pretty good. Knocks out Yveltal EX in one hit. That's the main purpose of Raichu, but it is just good in general as well. So these were the two Pokemon that really got paired together very often, Flareon and Raichu, but it always seemed like it was missing that extra card. You know, I've tried like Garbodor, things like that. But at the end of the day, an unusual Pokemon ends up working fairly well. And that's going to be Trevenant. So Trevenant is mainly seen in those Trevenant Excelgor decks to lock down your opponent. That's mainly what we've seen it be used for. But this deck actually attacks with it. Huh? Yeah, this deck wants to attack with Trevenant. So we run a heavy line 4-3 Trevenant. We want to get it out as quickly as possible. Of course, getting it out on the second turn is extremely powerful since we have this ability, Forest Curse. As long as this is your active Pokemon, your opponent can't play any item cards. And think about how many item cards most decks play. It's like 20 or 30. So it's pretty ridiculous to be able to shut those off immediately. Now, we are going to use the attack Tree Slam. For 1 Psychic, 2 colorless energy, we can use Tree Slam to 60 and then 20 to 2 of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Now, this is going to be extremely good against any deck that relies on rare candy. For example, Blastoise and Emboar decks are going to have an extremely difficult time against a turn 2 Trevenant, shutting off rare candy and putting on some pressure with Tree Slam. So this is the idea of Trevenant. Item cards are so powerful for those kinds of decks that simply having Forest Curse is good enough. Tree Slam is not an overwhelmingly good attack, but when you take away your opponent's options, it turns out to be good enough. It just 60 and 20 to 2 bench Pokemon slowly whittles away. And when they don't have access to item cards, don't have access to rare candy, this just gets the job done. So it's a Flareon, Raichu, Trevenant deck. Kind of a new twist on it, and it had a lot of success. Now there's also 1 Terrakion in here. It has Retaliate. It's tough to see. I should probably not use the full art for these videos. It does 30 plus 60 if one of your Pokemon was knocked out by damage during your opponent's previous turn. So it can't be knocked out by poison or anything like that. It has to be straight damage, knocking out your Pokemon. And then Retaliate does 90. This is useful against Darkrai EX, since Darkrai really is a pain. Night Spear can wreak havoc, especially with a 180 HP EX. It's just tough to deal with. So we just have 1 Terrakion to kind of keep Darkrai in check. And the last Pokemon is Jirachi EX, just a very good support Pokemon. Allows you to search for a supporter card. And then we have our trainer cards. They're a little unusual, but not too bad. We have 4 Professor Juniper, 4 N, and 2 Colress. These are pretty standard. And then 2 Random Receiver as well. I actually ran this kind of a supporter line in the deck I ran at the beginning of the season, which was also a Flareon deck. Since this deck doesn't really like Skyla too much, and 4 Colress is kind of a downer, we just kind of run 2 Colress, 2 Random Receiver, and then also 2 Tropical Beach. This will allow us to draw up to 7 early on in the game. And it's just, this isn't a deck that can really attack turn 1, so Tropical Beach is very good in here as well. If you can't afford it, you can run other stuff. You can run more supporters, but Tropical Beach is pretty nice in here. Now we have some other stuff here that's kind of neat. We have 1 Muscle Band, adds 20 damage to your attacks. That's pretty standard. It's just good against everything. And then 2 Silver Bangle. So this will allow us to hit those Pokemon EX for more damage. For example, a Leafeon against a Keldeo EX that has 3 energy on it can now Energy Crush for 90 times 2, which is a knockout. Just works out like that. A Trevenant with a Silver Bangle can knock out any Psychic Weak EX like a Mewtwo EX or a Deoxys EX, so it's very useful there. And then we also have 2 Silver Mirror. This is a deck that can be overrun very quickly by those Team Plasma decks that run Lugia EX. So Silver Mirror helps to slow down those kinds of decks. In fact, against Team Plasma decks, Trevenant with a Silver Mirror is basically invincible. Since your opponent can't play any item cards, they can't play any Tool Scrapper, which means Trevenant is just there, and unless your opponent plays a non-Team Plasma Pokemon, they're in some trouble. So Silver Mirror is definitely very good against those Team Plasma decks. We have 4 Ultra Ball. This just allows us to search for Pokemon. Also allows us to discard cards. So we can discard Pokemon to power up Flareon's Vengeance. 2 Level Ball. This lets us search out our little Pokemon, Eevee, Pikachu, Raichu, Jirachi, Phantump. All good. And then 1 Super Rod. Allows us to recover some cards in case we had to have a nasty discard with a Juniper, or to recover energy. A lot of the time, this just helps to get back some energy cards. And 2 Switch. Just very simple. Switch. A lot of our Pokemon have some nasty retreat costs, so it's nice to be able to get out of special conditions and also just get your Pokemon out of the active spot. And then our Ace-Spec card is simply Computer Search. Discard 2 cards and then search for any card. This is good to get double colorless energy, which most of our deck revolves around. So Computer Search, very good. Our energy, it's just 4 double colorless energy, 3 psychic, 1 fighting, and then 1 rainbow energy, just to give us a little flexibility, give us an option to attack with, another energy to attack with Land Crush maybe on Terrakion, maybe use Leaf Blade or even Heat Tackle on Flareon, and it's just, again, flexible. So this is a very cool deck. I definitely like seeing these decks succeed. I tried for a long time to get Flareon to do well. I've even tried it with Trevenant before. I didn't feel like it worked too well, but obviously I was wrong, as it does have a 2nd place finish at the Brazilian National Championships. So of course, we'll go ahead and play a game with it and see this deck in action, see what it's all about. And I'm going to be going first here in this game. No basic Pokemon, so I'm going to have to mulligan. And, oop, I see my opponent shows a hand. Oop, there's Enhanced Hammer and some Darkness Energy. We know we're probably going up against an Yveltal deck, or at least a Darkrai deck. Enhanced Hammer is not something I like to see, since it can discard our crucial double colorless energy, which we really need to attack. And anytime we get set back in this kind of a deck where we can only attach 1 energy per turn, it's a very big deal. So hopefully Enhanced Hammer doesn't hurt too much. We're going to try to play around that as much as possible. Alrighty, so I get an extra card for the mulligan, get another Eevee, and I will be going first. So yes, we see right off the bat, Yveltal EX, Sableye. So this is a very standard deck. The only question is whether or not it runs Garbodor. And my opponent asked if I'm doing a live commentary. I was not. This game is recorded, of course. And just going back over it. So here we go. Level Ball. I am going to search. The first thing when I see Yveltal is I need Raichu. Right? It's weak to lightning. We need to get Pikachu out as quickly as possible. So I'm going to just level ball straight for a Pikachu. And I'm going to attach the Psychic Energy onto Pikachu to get it ready for a Circle Circuit. And I do have a Juniper and an N in my hand. I really don't know if I need anything more this turn. So I'm just going to kind of sit back. I would prefer not to Juniper my hand away. And I don't know if my opponent has a good hand or not. I'm not in any dire need to get more cards, so I'm just going to sit on my hand and pass. And then, of course, my opponent explodes with Bicycles, Professor's Letter, Juniper, Ultra Ball. What in the world is going on here? My opponent just played a bazillion cards at once. We see a Darkrai coming out, and we see the Burbank City Gym as well. I was actually pretty fortunate there to avoid a Hypnotoxic Laser. That would have been a turn 1 knockout on my Eevee, and that's just not fun. Alright, so here my opponent is left with a 3-card hand. And I have to decide, do I want to Juniper away this hand or N? And I'm kind of against using N here, since my opponent only has 3 cards and played a lot of stuff, discarded a lot of supporters on the first turn. So I think I'm just going to Juniper and accept that I'm going to lose my Super Rod here. We're going to Ultra Ball for Terrakion. That Darkrai really scares me. I want to have the Terrakion down with an energy to prepare to retaliate if a Darkrai does come out. So we're just going to bench that Terrakion. We also need more bench Pokemon for Raichu. I assumed I'm not going to get a Circle Circuit off this turn to knock out that regular Yveltal. So I'm just going to attach that DCE to Pikachu so we can Circle Circuit with it next turn and then pass the turn. Knowing full well that Eevee will be knocked out, but that's okay. That's only 1 prize. My opponent has 5 more after that. So from here, I don't know. This is going to be a very close game. I actually like a heavier Raichu line in these kinds of decks because it just seems like 2-2 doesn't always get the job done. Especially when the regular Yveltal is thrown into the mix. I prefer a heavier 3-3 line of Raichu. This deck only runs a 2-2. So we'll see if we can pull off a win with just the kind of skimpy line. And alright, I'm going to go ahead with the N there. Really needed to draw the Raichu, and I got it. So that's pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and attach a Silver Mirror onto Raichu, since we can get the knockout anyway with Circle Circuit. And this will prevent something like an Absol coming out and using Mind Jack for the knockout. Since Absol is a Team Plasma Pokemon, Silver Mirror does stop that. We do see Burbank City Gym, and hey, speak of the devil, there is an Absol. So I could have prevented a Mind Jack knockout here, but that's, I don't know, we'll see. We do see the double colors going on to Yveltal EX, and my opponent really didn't need to do that, I guess, since an Evil Ball is a knockout anyway. Could have just attached that energy somewhere. It's going to be the same thing if you Y Cyclone or whatever, just a little fancier. So yeah, there's the Y Cyclone. This is why Raichu still isn't a great counter to Yveltal EX. It just, I mean, it gets knocked up by Y Cyclone. Your opponent gets to conserve energy. It's just not that great. Alright, let's see. So I have an N. My opponent has 5 cards. I'll be drawing 4. My big thing here is I really need to draw an energy. And so I am just going to go all out here and try to just draw an energy. If I miss the knockout this turn, I think I lose. So I need to deal with this Yveltal EX right now. So instead of playing the N, I'm going to Stellar Guidance for a Colress. And then we'll fill the bench up with the Phantom and the Jirachi. Evolve to Raichu and then Colress for 9. That way, I know I'm going to get an energy. At least I hope so. That's 9 cards I'm getting here. And then we can Ultra Ball away 2 of those Pokemon. Trevenant is not a card I'm really going to get into play in this matchup, since every Pokemon on my opponent's field is basically dark, and Trevenant is weak to dark. But there we have the Circle Circuit for 200 damage, knocking out that Yveltal EX in 1 hit. And now we have a prize lead, which is very nice. We have a little cushion here. If we're just trading knockouts the rest of the game, I'm going to come out on top. That's just how it's going to go. Right? If we both take a prize every turn, well, I win. I'm going to win the race there. So it's just a matter of, can I take a knockout every turn? And if I can't, will my opponent be able to capitalize? There's a lot of variables here, but I feel like I'm definitely in position to win at this point. My problem here is I never got an energy onto that Terrakion. I wish I would have, so that I could have, powered up for, just in case of a Darkrai coming out. That's going to be very difficult to knock out. But as the game progresses, I may be able to get a knockout with Flareon. So, I don't know. Lots of question marks as this game goes on. But we do see the Gold Breaker. After the laser, there will be a knockout. And I did draw Juniper off of that N. That's very big. I just need to draw a double colorless energy, and I can Vengeance for the knockout. And my opponent has no energy in play, so we just need one DCE off of this Juniper. And that looks like a big failure. Ouch. I think I've only used one DCE so far, so that was pretty disappointing. Haven't used my computer search either. So yeah, that is a real letdown right there. I'm going to go ahead and put down the Flareon and the Eevee, and then we'll just use Tropical Beach, draw 3. And yeah, that was a very deflating turn. Now this gives my opponent to take advantage of this. Gives my opponent the opportunity to get a knockout, take the prize lead, and then be the one ahead on this prize exchange for the rest of the game. I decided to put the fighting on Terrakion here, since DCE just allows me to Vengeance anyway, so might as well prepare for a Retaliate in case my opponent decides to get cute and use Darkrai, or I could even respond and knock out an Absol with Retaliate. So we have all sorts of options here, and Terrakion has 130 HP, which makes it pretty sturdy. Bouffalant won't be able to really knock it out. It would take an EX, an Yveltal, or a Darkrai to take down that big bad Terrakion. So Terrakion does have some uses here. I get hit by another N, and I'm just seeing if I have enough Pokemon in the discard pile to really do anything. We have quite a few. And we see a Tool Scrapper getting rid of the Muscle Band, and then a random receiver gets a Juniper. And just a Gold Breaker for 80. So once again, I have an opportunity to draw a DCE. Drawn 7 of my 14 cards, and what? I missed again. Oh, wow. That is brutal. So this deck is very reliant on drawing those double colorless energy, and just sometimes you miss and it just backfires. Yeah, this is one of the downsides of this kind of a deck. It happens to every deck. You can just miss this kind of a thing, but this is really painful. That's 2 turns in a row. I just missed the energy to simply attack. Yeah. Well, we'll have to try to find a way out. Look, you can see I only have 5 cards left after that Tropical Beach. It's pretty annoying. But if my opponent does knock me out with Bouffalant here, I will be able to respond with a quick Retaliate. Bouffalant is weak to fighting. And then I could probably put that Silver Mirror on a Terrakion to force Yveltal or Darkrai to get a knockout. Otherwise, Absol would come out and Mind Jack potentially. But this is going to be really close still, even after missing those 2 energy drops. Or not, the 2 double colorless energy, those were huge turns. Looks like we'll still be okay. We'll have a shot to win still. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and promote Terrakion after the Gold Breaker. Takes out Flareon, put the DCE on the bench, and along with the Silver Bangle, and then a Silver Mirror going on to the active. And let's just go for an N, put my opponent down to 2 cards, and Retaliate. Try to, limit his options a little bit. So we'll go ahead and take that knockout, take the prize, and it's going to be close, 2-2. Now, if my opponent does attack with Yveltal EX, I have a simple Vengeance, game over. That's pretty straightforward. I win. So I'm going to assume my opponent won't use Yveltal EX here. That might be a safe assumption, I think. We do see an energy retrieval. We don't see that too often, especially with Dark Patch. Kind of a strange card to see. But yeah, you can see tons and tons of Pokemon in the discard pile, and this is where Flareon gets dangerous. But what will my opponent do? You know, a Sableye using Junk Hunt here wouldn't be too bad, although I would just need an energy to Land Crush for the knockout, and then my opponent's kind of stuck. The regular Yveltal using Oblivion Wing is actually pretty annoying, since it resists fighting, and yeah, this is kind of tough to deal with. I may have to switch into Flareon here and just take the knockout. Unfortunately, Juniper decks me out at this point, so I don't really want to be using that. I don't want to lose the game immediately. I wish I had another DCE right here. I would feel more comfortable, right? I would just attach the other one to Flareon and then switch Vengeance, and that would probably be it. But I don't think I can wait any longer. I don't think I can just allow my opponent to sit here in Oblivion Wing over and over. So I'm just going to switch into Flareon, put down that other Silver Bangle, and then Vengeance for 150 damage. Taking down that Yveltal, and we do see a DCE was in the prizes, so if I'm not hit by an N, I should win this game right here. We have enough Pokemon in the discard pile. We have a Silver Bangle ready to... I mean, we're going to Vengeance for a lot of damage, right? We just did 140. Let's see. Yeah, we should have more than enough. That's my point, I guess. All right. So, let's see what happens here. Yveltal EX is active, and we see a Juniper. And, I mean, if my opponent uses Absol, I'll just have Terrakion to retaliate. Or if there's the Evil Ball, and that means if Flareon's coming out to play. And we have that last DCE, and that means we can Vengeance. My opponent says GG, and that's it. Oops, I accidentally typed KK. I don't know how I managed that. But GG, Vengeance for 200 damage. And there we go. This Flareon, Raichu, Trevenant, Terrakion, Leafeon deck takes down an Yveltal deck. And the Yveltal decks have been extremely powerful and popular, so if we can take down those decks, this is a pretty good deck in my book. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.